Well, I'm Byron Brought. I've been in ministry since 1966. Long time. When Francis Asbury got off the boat, I was there to greet him. I very intentionally try to be constantly aware of and recognizing the presence of God in my midst. And sometimes that means an articulated prayer. Sometimes it means just a thought prayer, a silent prayer, which I do a lot during the day. But I genuinely try that every moment of my life I am aware of and recognizing the presence of God. Paul said this, pray without ceasing. And that's kind of a goal in my life to do that. When I make requests, which I often do, I understand that a request is a request. And like any request, the answer can be yes, and the answer can be no. And the answer can be not now. The answer can be, well, yeah, but not quite the way you want it. And I respect that God is God, and I'm a little twerp, and we'll let God be God. And so I make the request, and what will be is what will be, and that's okay.
You've made peace with that.
I'm at peace with that. Yeah. Well, of course, the meals, but every night, and boy, here's an example where I'm absolutely convinced God answered my prayer. Every night, I would pray for both Byron and Andrew that God would enable them to grow up to be good men who would do His will. And I had no preconceived idea of what that meant, but that God would be with them and enable them to grow up to be good men and to do God's will. Byron is an ordained minister. Andrew is an attorney working in environmental law. I'm absolutely convinced they're doing God's will, and they're good guys. So, thank you, Lord. I thank you very much.
Answered prayers.
Absolutely. Back when I was in college, I went through kind of a crisis of career of what I was going to do with my life and, how I was going to spend my life. I went to college studying, looking forward to, fully expecting to go into chemistry and physics, one of those areas. So all my first 2 years were spent in those subjects and mathematics. Toward the end of my sophomore year, I began thinking a little bit about going into ministry. So one of the things I did was every day I would go into the Sage Chapel there in the Cornell campus, big church. But I would go in, I'd be all alone, but I'd just go in and sit down and spend a few moments in prayer. I never saw a burning bush. I never heard a deep bass voice coming out of heaven. But I do believe that was helpful in God leading me and guiding me. And as I look back on life, I would say God did lead me into ministry, and I never regret for a moment the decision I made. Before the prayer, which comes last in a visit when I visit, I try to listen really carefully to try to discern what they might really need, what they might want me to pray for. I'm going to give an example of somebody who is very, very critically ill. What do you pray for? Do you pray that they'll get better and heal? Do you pray that God will simply take them home? I try to listen to people as to just how sick they are and where they are, if they're satisfied with their lives, are they at peace with God? And so sometimes the prayer will be for their healing, and at other times I will pray that in God's good time, whenever that is, that God will simply take them home. But sometimes it is difficult to know exactly what to pray for, but I try to listen. For me, I think just be honest when you pray. Just let your heart, your gut spill out. So I don't worry so much what I'm going to say. I've always respected the psalmist who shook his fist at the heaven and said, "How long, O God, will the wicked prosper?" And I think it's okay to pray like that. I think what God doesn't want is that you diss God, that you just dismiss God from your life. I think it's okay to be angry even, but just to open up. My goal is that prayer isn't so much something I say as something I am. Not just what I say, but what I can be as a human being. That my whole life can be a prayer.